Hi, I'm Pedro from Pedro's Garage, and today I'm going to show you one of the best bangs for your buck that you can do for your car if you have a Cayman or a Boxster, no matter the year, no matter the model. There's a version for the early ones from 97, 98, 99, all the way up to 2012, and then there's a newer version for the 981 and the 718, and it's called the TechnoBrace. Basically, it's the same piece. Like I said, it changes a little bit. We're going to be installing it and looking at a 718, a 981, but it's the same piece as the 718. And what it does is it actually ties the bottom end of the rear suspension so that it doesn't allow it to flex during hard cornering under power. A lot of people call it, when they feel the car doing that, it starts to skip to one side. They call it axle hopping. It's actually the camber on the rear of the car. When you turn into one side, it loads the suspension so much that it actually goes from negative to almost neutral on the tire, and it just skips. So as it starts to skip, it feels like it's axle hopping, and that's cured very easily with our piece, the TechnoBrace. It's an aluminum bar, for aircraft grade aluminum, made to very specific dimensions for the rear end of the car. And the bottom end of the suspension, one side and the other side, is just basically bolted onto the top of the chassis, but on the bottom it's floating, and it's just held in place by the aluminum skid plate that you can actually bend with your hand. It's so flexible. So that's why when you're under heavy loads and heavy power, you can actually get the bottom of the suspension on the bottom end just to move in and out. So what we did is we came up with this brace, this piece that will sit up over the aluminum skid plate and basically just tie them both together. The way to install it is fairly simple. We'll need to remove the last bolt on each one of the aluminum diagonal braces, and then we'll mount from the top after we loosen the sway bar a little bit. Let me show you how it's done. I already loosened one side, but the second side I'll show you. You're gonna need a mallet or a heavy hammer, and after you loosen the nut to the bottom end of the thread, it uses a 16 millimeter socket. You're going to take the socket, because the nut is flared on the top, and put it in place so you have about a 1/4 inch of clearance right here, because you've already loosened it. And you're just going to whack it until smack it really hard until it's pressed in, until you can get it to loosen and the head come out. Here we go. And there we go. There we go. It's out. So once the head of the stud is out, just loosen the nut, and you can see it was pressed in place, and then the nut on the bottom. Do it on both sides. The first side I had already loosened it. We're just going to take it out. Now we're going to loosen the sway bar. This is a 13 millimeter bolt. We're almost done here. Once you remove it, you can just, as you see, pull back the sway bar, and that'll give us enough room to install the brace. The brace comes with 2 automotive grade bolts, but the nut is going to be reused. And the way to install it is, after we've pulled on the sway bar, we're just going to slide the brace in place. When it's in place, you're going to drop one of the bolts through one side and the other through the other side. And now we can replace the nut that we used on the bottom, tighten it. And here's how it looks from the top. You can see the sway bar back here and the TechnoBrace already right there, the aluminum piece installed in place. It runs all the way under the transmission, whether it's a PDK or a manual, and ties the other side together. Put the sway bar in place, tighten it, and you're done. And now you can actually go and take the car on heavy right or left-handers under power, and your street tire is going to feel as if they were R compound, because the bottom end of the suspension doesn't swing, doesn't move anymore. You maintain your camber all the way through every turn. You don't feel it on the streets for normal driving. You actually don't even feel it on the track at high speeds. Where you do feel it is when you're doing tight, twisty turns, as on mountain runs, autocross. And I always tell people, we've done some measurements and we've done a lot of testing. You can save about 1 second with the TechnoBrace on a 60-second autocross course. So it's that much an advantage to have it. It's already been accepted legal for spec racing in Boxster spec and in Cayman spec. The powers that be in the different clubs saw the importance and the safety features of it and the very low cost. So they've made it legal. So now if you have a spec Boxster or a spec Cayman, you can actually install it in the car and it's legal. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to call us anytime. Happy Porscheing.